The system of rice intensification, known as SRI, is a combination of innovative agricultural practices that is drawing increasing worldwide attention. First developed in Madagascar, it has now been applied in 30 countries in all regions of the world. SRI involves a series of innovative practices to increase productivity from planting, water management, to soil aeration and nutrient application. These practices have enabled farmers to increase their paddy yields by 50 to 100% and even more, and all this with less water and farm input costs. With yield increases and reductions in irrigation, income for farmers has increased, as reported in India, Indonesia, Cambodia, Vietnam, and the Philippines.
Compared to the common practice, the net income of our ordinary farmers here is only ranging 8 to 10,000 pesos per hectare, while given this method of farming, the farmer can have a net income of 30 to 40,000 pesos.
This presentation is a step-by-step practical guide for farmers. In a separate presentation, which is for both technical and non-technical audiences, you will see the major benefits and constraints of applying SRI. There are 6 key elements of SRI. In the following, we will use SRI application from the Philippines, locally also referred to as SSIA, for Sustainable System of Irrigated Agriculture, to outline the differences between SRI and common rice cultivation. Let us start with the preparation of the land, which will sound familiar to you as the steps involved do not differ much from common practices. Here is what you will need to do. Soak the field for 5 days and then plow. Harrow 2 or 3 times with a 2 to 3 day pause to ensure proper water and soil mixture. Then spread appropriate amount of organic fertilizer, or a chemical equivalent, for the size of your land before the last harrowing. It is important to level the field so that water can reach all areas. For easier management of on-farm water, it is suggested that you create ditches on your field. This will help drain the field for intermittent irrigation and drying of the soil, as you will see later in this presentation. Let's move to the division of the field with grids. This element differs significantly from common practices. Rake the field using a specially constructed rake to mark a grid on the muddy surface. The rakes can be handmade from wood or bamboo, or tools that can be found in local markets. You may start with 25 by 25 centimeters spacing and modify it depending on field results. If the soil is fertile, wider spacing of up to 40 centimeters can give even higher yields. The field should not have much standing water. Watch out if it holds the marking. If it doesn't, this is a clear sign that the field is too wet for transplanting. Let's move on to preparation of seedlings. While the land is being prepared, you can already start a nursery. With SRI or SSIA, a much smaller number of plants are needed per hectare, as we will see in the following section. You will have to select good seeds because every seed matters. How can you tell if a seed is good or bad? In some places, farmers soak the seeds in salt water. First, add an egg to the bucket of water, and then add salt until the egg floats. The water is now ready to help in seed selection. Add rice seeds and get rid of those that float on top of the water. Use only the ones that sink to the bottom. On top of a plastic sheet, make a 2 to 3 centimeter thick seedbed, blended with soil and organic fertilizer. Use a 1-to-1 ratio between soil and fertilizer. Some farmers use an equal amount of soil, compost, and chicken manure. What is the sheet used for? Well, it prevents seedling roots from running too deep into the soil at the time of transplanting. Next, sow 5 to 7 kilograms per hectare of treated and pre-germinated seeds not too densely onto the seedbed. Spread organic fertilizer on the seedbeds 2 days after sowing. You can spray organic pesticide if needed. Water the nursery daily to keep it moist but not saturated. Where do you do all of these? Well, you can grow seedlings near your home on portable plates, container covers in bamboo trays, and even on banana leaves. Since many fewer seedlings are raised and they are transplanted when small, it's so much easier to carry the seedlings. You will also find that nursery management is faster and less labor-intensive. Once the seedlings are ready, they will need to be transplanted, our third important element. Transplant your seedlings before the third leaf appears, or when the seedlings are about 8 to 10 days old. Unlike in common practices, where 1-month-old seedlings are transplanted, the new method involves transplanting much younger seedlings. This will produce larger, more productive, and healthier plants with large, effective root systems, as you will see from the latter part of this presentation. Before you transplant the seedlings, disassemble the seedbed and remove them. Be careful not to damage the young roots. You can put them on a plate or tray to make it easier to carry them to the field. Remember the grid we have created earlier during land preparation? Plant 1 seedling per hill at each intersection of the grid that is marked on the soil. You will realize that much fewer seedlings are needed and the reduction can be 80 to 90%. This differs from common methods, which places a handful of seedlings in each hill. Please pay attention to the following points. Plant the seedlings at a shallow depth, just 1 to 2 centimeters deep. Slip the roots into the mud sideways so that the roots stay horizontal in the soil. Be careful. Don't push the seedlings in from above, because that may cause the root tips to point upward in the soil, and this will slow down their growth. Allow no more than 20 to 30 minutes between the uprooting of seedlings and their transplanting. You will reduce mortality and stress on the young seedlings, and they will grow faster. Because you planted your seedlings as single plants with wider spacing, it is perfectly normal if your field is not as green as what you're used to seeing. With wide spacing of up to 40 by 40 centimeters, plants get a lot of sunlight and air, which allow roots and canopies to grow profusely. These in turn produce stronger stalks and more tillers. Now that the seedlings are planted, let's move on to an important element, water management. As a start, try a 3 to 7 day cycle. That is, irrigate the field for 3 days and let it dry out for 7 days. You should modify the cycle according to your soil and plant conditions. The idea is to keep the soil moist but not saturated, to allow air to get into the soil for the benefits of the roots and soil organisms. Begin the cycle 10 days after transplanting and shift to continuous irrigation when the panicles start to appear, in which a thin layer of water, 1 to 2 centimeters, can be kept on the field. You can determine visually when to irrigate, depending upon the size of cracks that appear on the soil surface. Irrigation should be stopped 1 to 2 weeks before harvest for the field to dry and the plant to transfer maximum nutrients into the grains. The new method does not follow commonly known farming practices of growing paddy in flooded conditions. Intermittent irrigation has shown much more effective as it promotes root elongation and aerates the soil. You will need to adjust the timing and the amounts of intermittent irrigation according to the availability of water, especially in the dry season. Please note that these new methods require good management of irrigation systems and more reliable water supply than continuous flooding. Since the soil is not kept flooded from the outset, plant roots grow larger and deeper and remain healthier than those grown using common practices. You will notice that the plants hold up better to water stress and have more resistance to drought. Intermittent irrigation requires more weeding since the fields are not kept continuously flooded, so weeds will grow. Start weeding around 10 to 12 days after transplanting and repeat 2 to 3 times every 10 to 12 days. Farmers have found that the extra effort invested in weed control is worth it because soil aeration achieved with rotary weeding has shown to add 1 to 2 tons of yield per hectare. Manual weeding or herbicides can be used to reduce weeds, but we recommend using spike-teeth rotary tools because it is good for both weeding and tillage as weeds are mixed into the soil as green manure. Rotary weeders, which do not cost much, are available at local markets. In the Philippines, organic fertilizers have been emphasized as one of the key elements in SSIA, although the original SRI did not require the use of organic fertilizer. In Mindanao, farmers use locally made decomposed mixtures of rice straw, animal dung, banana pulp, and indigenous microorganisms. Organic fertilizers are made locally and available to farmers. The SRI Pilipinas Network, a local NGO, trains farmers how to make their own organic fertilizers. The idea is not to feed the plant, but to feed the soil and let the soil feed the plant. We completed our 6 elements, which gave you general guidance in applying the new method. Let us quickly review the important characteristics of SRI. First, seedlings get transplanted much younger. Second, single, instead of multiple plants, get planted per hill. Third, plants are spaced wider and get arranged in a square pattern to increase plant exposure to sunlight, air, and nutrients. Fourth, intermittent water application instead of continuous flood irrigation. The last 2 features of SRI relate to the active soil aeration to control weeds and the increased use of organic fertilizers. Keep in mind that you need to modify these practices based on your own soil conditions, availability of water, financial constraints, and your readiness to try new practices. For example, you should experiment with the spacing to decide what works best on your soil, as soil fertility improves over time. Leveled land and control of field water drains are critical in the above practices. Depending on the types of weeds in your area, you may decide if pesticides are needed. The cost of labor and the availability of organic materials can also influence how much organic fertilizers you can make or manage to apply. Because practices improve with experience, it is important that before converting the whole lot, you may try the new methods in a portion of your field to gain first-hand knowledge. SSIA, an application of SRI in the Philippines, has demonstrated that it is not a myth to produce more yields with less input. Benefits from SRI have been reported in many countries around the world. SRI may not be applicable everywhere, and there are constraints and limitations in applying it. These are reviewed in a separate presentation. Predicted changes to our climate, increasing water demand from urban and other sectors, and the need to feed growing populations mean less water available for agriculture. SRI provides a new window of opportunity for agriculture water management and for helping farmers to improve their livelihoods.